What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up the WET-40 70-volt indoor-outdoor wall swivel speakers. They come in two colors of black and white, but the setup for each is the exact same. So as you can see, it comes with the speakers themselves, two mounting brackets, two ball shafts, two molded nuts, two safety cables, a metal bar, 8 screws, and 2 lock nuts. Now these speakers can be used as both 8-ohm stereo speakers or 70-volt speakers, so let me quickly explain how 70-volt systems work. 70-volt amplifiers allow you to run a large amount of speakers at a fixed and constant wattage off that amplifier. So you can run 100 speakers off that amplifier as long as you match the watts being drawn by the speakers to the ability of the amp. We can do that by tapping each speaker to a specific wattage amount. So for example, if my amplifier has 100 watts, I can tap each speaker at 10 watts, giving me the ability to run 10 speakers. Now if you have a multi-zone amplifier, that opens up the flexibility of where you can control the audio and how you want to have it set up in your space. But the same principle applies because you have to match the tapped wattage amount on your speakers to the ability of each zone on your amplifier. And then you'll have independent volume controls for the different speakers in each zone. If you want to learn even more about 70-volt systems, check out our video on what is 70-volt. So to mount your speakers, we're going to start by taking the mounting bracket here. Now to mount your speakers, you could make sure there's a wooden stud behind your wall first. The stud finder is going to stop when it catches onto the stud. From there you can place your speaker anywhere along that stud, and usually there are studs 16 inches apart from each other if you wanted to mount another speaker next to it. If you needed to mount your speaker onto a drywall like we have here, that's totally okay too. You'll just want to be sure when you're drilling your holes to make them big enough to fit these anchors here. You'll also want to be sure that these screws for your mounting bracket fit inside of the anchors as well, and lining it up to a spot on our wall where we want to mount our speaker. Now usually these types of speakers are mounted higher up towards your ceiling, but for demonstrational purposes, we're going to place it at head level here. When you pick a spot for your mount, you can also take a level to make sure that it's going to be nice and even against your wall. So once we picked where we want to mount our speaker, we can take a pen, pencil, or anything that will make a mark, fit in right inside of these screw holes here, and make our marks so we know where to make our holes. So after we've made the marks on our wall, we're going to take a drill with a drill bit to make the holes for the anchors. Just be sure that the drill bit is big enough to make the holes for your anchors. So after we've placed our anchors inside, we're going to take our mounting bracket here, line it back up to the holes. Then we're going to take each screw and line it up to the holes and screw them in to secure the bracket. Now in case you wanted to secure your speaker even further, you can wait to put in your last screw until we add the safety cable. Otherwise you can just screw in the last screw. Next we're going to take the ball shaft and the lock nut and screw the lock nut onto the ball shaft in case it isn't on there already. Again, if you want to use the safety cable for your setup, you're going to take the end with the bigger circle here and run that through the ball shaft, and then screw the lock nut onto the shaft. Again, this is completely optional, so you don't have to do this step. Next, we're going to take the molded nut here and feed the ball shaft through the nut. After that, you're going to take the ball shaft and screw it onto the back of the speaker just like this. And you can even use a wrench to fully screw the ball shaft in because we have the lock nut in there. Now before we mount our speaker onto the mounting bracket, we can take our speaker wire and plug it into the speaker by pushing down on these red and black terminals here and running the red positive wire to the red positive terminal and the black negative wire to the black negative terminal. You can also select the wattage that you want the speaker to be tapped to. So for today, we're going to tap the speaker at 20 watts so it's drawing the most power from the amp. So after that, we're going to line the ball here up to the circle of the mounting bracket. And while we're holding the speaker, we're going to take the molded nut and screw it onto the bracket. You'll notice that as you're fully about to tighten the molded nut, that you can swivel the speaker around to any position that you want to have your speaker. So once you've picked the position, you can then take the molded nut and tighten it up. And you can even take your metal bar and line it up to either of the holes on the molded nut and use it to further secure the molded nut. And again, if you have your safety cable attached to your speaker, you're going to take the end with the small ring here, line it up to the last screw hole, feed the screw through. After you've made all the adjustments, you're going to take a Phillips head screwdriver and use it to screw in this screw here on the side of the molded nut. This will ensure that the speaker will be set in the position that you wanted it to. So after you've done this all for your first speaker, you're going to follow these same exact steps with the second speaker. We can take these steps and apply it to any position that we want to have the speaker onto our wall, whether it be higher up like we mentioned before, ear level like this, in a corner, etc. Now before I show you how to wire your speaker to your amplifier, let's head over to the second set where we have 2 speakers already set up. Alright, so here I am with 2 of my speakers set up and ready to go. And like we did earlier, I already connected the speaker wire to the speakers, so all we have to do is connect them to the amp. And like I mentioned earlier, we can tap each speaker on the back, giving us full customization of the sound for any type of setup that these speakers might be installed. So again, an example of that would be if my amplifier has 100 watts, I can tap each speaker at 10 watts, giving me the ability to use 10 speakers. For today, we have each speaker tapped at 20 watts, so they're drawing the most power from the amp. And if you do want to set up multiple speakers, you can do this by parallel wiring, which just means you're connecting each speaker through the positive and negative terminals of each speaker. If you want to learn more about parallel wiring your 70-volt speakers, check out our video on that. Now after you've connected the speaker wire to your speakers, you can make a separate hole on this side to run your speaker wire through the wall, and then make another hole to feed the rest of the speaker wire out and connect it to your amplifier. So we can take the other end of our speaker wire and connect it to either the direct output of the amplifier or set each speaker up to their own zone so we have independent volume control for each speaker. For today, we're just going to connect the wires straight from the speaker right to the amp. So you'll want to make sure to connect the red positive wire into the positive terminal of each zone and the black negative wire to the negative terminal of each zone. Now you could also use these speakers for your home theater or stereo setup if you set them each to the 8 ohm tap and connect them to your stereo amplifier or receiver. So now that I've got my speakers connected to zones 1 and 2, I'm going to want to raise the volume for each of these zones, and I'm also going to want to raise the master volume on my amplifier. So now that everything's ready to go, I have my phone connected to the amplifier through Bluetooth, so I'm going to play some music so we can hear how the speakers sound. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up the WET-40 70-volt indoor-outdoor wall swivel speakers. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.